I'm gonna let people in. So you, everyone probably should turn on your camera.
Oh my God, I don't do that.
And just let them in and Susan can run the meeting.
So just, how am I letting them in? Just
See, it
admit
says
them?
admit.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
That's it.
That's slow.
Ooh. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
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 Hey, Nirmal, are you sitting in for Betsy?
REID. You don't know her address.
Are you sitting in for Betsy, Nirmal?
Oh, I'm so sorry, I couldn't hear you. Yes, Betsy's in a meeting right now, so they
Uh-huh.
should be done soon. Yep.
Okay. Um,
Oh, no.
I'm just writing down who's here.
Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, I actually just pulled up her phone number. Her cell phone number is, are you ready?
Somebody is unmuted and I can hear them talking.
I believe that's coming through on normals.
Oh, is it coming through?
That's
on
yeah.
camera? Okay, there we go. Okay. And who is iPhone 5? iPhone 5 is muted. Okay, well, let's see. Maybe I should bring up the agenda unless you have that right there. And
I got it.
you want to bring it up?
iPhone 5 is Nina White.
Oh, hi, Nina. Do you have the agenda there to pull up, Nirmal, or do you want me to? I can't hear, you're muted.
He's muted again.
I'm so sorry. No, I don't have anything. I just started the meeting.
Okay, let's
you.
see.
Appreciate it. Okay, thank you so much.
I have got like a huge number of things open. Let's see, do I have the agenda? Yes. All right, I can share it. If I can share it. Otherwise, I think we just start with homeowner comments, so we can start there and wait to discuss the reserves when Betsy comes in. Do you have a time estimate for when Betsy's available, Nirmal?
They should be done soon.
Okay,
Yeah, they started at 3:30, so they should be done soon.
okay. Well, let's start off with homeowner comments then. Does anybody have anything that they wanted? Questions? Comments? Lynn?
Hello, good evening, everybody. I did leave a letter at the office. Memo, letter, whatever, with several questions on it. And this was before the budget was adopted. And I cannot find any record of having received any responses. Also, I had some questions at the meeting, the public meeting about the budget. And I had questions in the chat. And at the end of the meeting, someone said, we'll answer the questions in the chat, but I'm not sure where they were.
Okay, well,
If you could provide them, I'd be very happy.
well, I don't know what your questions were, but do you want to just kind of
Well,
summarize?
not
them?
right now, not right now.
Oh,
It isn't appropriate, I don't think, right now.
okay,
It was the
right.
debate over the budget and the increase in the budget. That's what it was. And it was specific questions about it.
Oh, okay, all right.
And I'd just
Um,
like to get an answer back.
Okay, I think just sort of FYI, I don't know how like the letter communication isn't quite as easy as email. If you email something to the finance committee email address, then everybody gets that and can address your
Everybody
question.
should have gotten it because I had left copies in the office on the desk. And I gave Betsy a copy too. I left it under her door and then I told her that I had left it because there was a break. When I went over there, it was a daytime and there was a break in the meeting. Oh, I know, it was the open house. That's what it was. And there was a break in the meeting or something anyway. Nobody was in the office.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to tell you that I don't have your letter. And I don't think that anybody probably on the committee does. So
So nobody received the letter?
I
Really?
can't speak for anyone but myself, but I didn't. And I'm just trying to tell you that if you email it to us, then we'll get it. But if you leave
Wow.
letters places, it's difficult. People don't always go to the clubhouse. They, maybe they're there at a time when Nirmal
no.
or Betsy is busy. I'm telling you, I don't have it. And so I don't know your questions.
Oh my
Susan,
goodness.
if they were questions that related to the adoption of the budget, the final adoption of the budget, they really
Not
should be
final.
addressed to the board and not to finance.
It was addressed to both the finance committee and the grounds committee. And it was specific questions about the proposed budget. And
Okay.
it blows my mind, I have to say, that
Well,
you guys don't know about it, honestly.
we're just a small operation and, it's,
Oh, it's not
I'm
that
sorry.
small.
well, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
So-
sorry that your mind is blown and,
Sorry.
hopefully we can address your issues, although I'm not, I think that whatever the issues are will probably come up in our planning for next year too. Especially if, as you're saying, that it involved landscape and budget things, because I think those will be a focus of the board. We are here really to assist the board and, look into issues that they want looked into. But, I think all of us are pretty interested in trying to figure out a way to get landscape costs under control, especially, you know, in this sort of with climate change and everything else going on. And in fact, I'll tell you, you know, you're listening to this, so you'll hear it, but I was going to mention to the rest of the committee members that the board asked me and the chair of the grounds committee to attend a meeting in early December, which guess what is next week, to talk about trying to think of ways to get some of the figure out how to really plan for landscaping expenses and try and get those under control. So, you know, I don't want you to think that you're alone out there, and everybody is thinking and has a lot of the same questions. And so, and you'll have a chance to talk about these things again this year.
Do I have to attend every meeting in order to talk about this? No, the landscape was definitely my major concern because that's a huge cost. And we were just walking today and I could tell that they're prepping some of the property for more sod.
Well, okay, this is, I know you have probably a lot of grounds questions, but the purpose really of this meeting is to talk about the reserve budget that has already been adopted by the board. So like, if you can kind of think, if you have any comments really that are directed more towards the finance committee, that'd be great. But
the cost of the landscaping is definitely
okay.
A finance committee issue.
Yes, it is. I'll just put that note down that you have concerns about the cost of landscaping.
Correct. And the
Thank
bidding
you,
process. My questions also had to do with the bidding process, but if I wouldn't have mentioned it if you hadn't asked, so I'm sorry that I took your time.
Oh no,
Sorry.
you're
Sorry.
fine. Yeah, the bidding process. Okay. Does anybody else have any other comments, questions? All right, well, let's see. Next on our agenda is just follow-ups and updates on board actions or things going on around, you know, concerning the finance committee, but kind of that we need to know about. I put on there that, well, I just kind of make sure everybody is aware, but I'm just saying this out loud, that the operations budget was passed by the board. I think they took a lot of our recommendations, with the exception of the security patrol. I think they kept them in the budget, but reduced them to the patrol to 2 patrols a night, and took out the day patrol. So it reduced some cost, and everything else they adopted. And then, as you know, they adopted the reserve budget pretty much because they, I think, needed to adopt the budget at that meeting. Will, you probably have more perspective on this than I do. I'm just guessing that there was a little time crunch, and Bob Browning sent the draft reserve budget in, and they had asked for a $318 a month per unit contribution to the reserves. And so he just kind of adjusted the reserve budget to meet that goal. But it didn't look to me, but we'll get into this later when we're looking through the reserve budget more. Anyway, they have adopted it, but I think that there is still room to ask for changes, and which is why we need to still go through it. one thing I was kind of wondering about, Nirmal, maybe you know if there's any updates on the water billing situation. Betsy was gonna try to talk to the people at the city about the water billing.
No, she didn't get any information last week, and of course, she was not here from Wednesday, so today she didn't say nothing, so I will remind her on that.
Okay, all right, so we have no updates on that.
No, no updates as yet.
Okay. Let's see. All right, so the next thing I'd like to talk about is just expectations of committee members, and I'm just bringing this up because it seems like there have been a couple of times where and you know, I know I'm talking mostly to Mary, that things have come up, that you've done things that have been kind of that I've interpreted in a way as being a little bit dismissive of finance committee discussions and things that we've agreed on. And I just think it might be a good idea to get it out in the open so that we can work together better. I don't think anybody wants to be in a position where we're feeling like we're working against our fellow committee members. We want to be in a position where we can support one another and elevate each other's concerns. And not kind of undermine each other. And so, you know, it was in that spirit that I wrote you back. And I'm just kind of wondering if you had any comments or any questions about what I wrote. I know that I think my fellow committee members are, you know, also happy to work together with you. But I would really like it to be more of a collaborative process. So any comments, any thoughts, suggestions for moving forward? I know it's hard to talk in a big committee like this. And, you know, if you'd rather talk privately, I'm happy to do that too. So I'll just kind of take silence as agreement with the things that I've said, and we'll look for a time maybe to talk if you feel as though that would be productive. Or not.
Mary may be out of the room.
That's possible. Well, she'll be able to hear my comments on the recording since this is recorded. Okay, all right. Does anybody else have anything that they want to add?
Yeah, Susan. I don't know what the outcome of this is until Betsy comes on. I don't know how long Betsy's going to be tied up, but I suggested several weeks ago that since we've initiated the siding project, that we take maybe the first dozen units. We know how many sheets are replaced on those units once that they're finished. Get the contractor to give us a count on the total number of sheets on those units. Then we know, we suddenly can probably extrapolate from that, given the diversity of of the units that are affected, a rough estimate of how many sheets will be replaced or what proportion of the sheets will be replaced across all of Nepenthe. So we're going to know that, it's 1/10, 1/12, 20%, 15%, whatever. Once we have that number, it's possible to extrapolate out in the reserve study what impact that's going to have on the long-term cost of siding.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if Betsy's had any progress on that. I was gone for several weeks, and when I came back, she was gone. And so until I can ask her, but I thought I'd at least explain what I was asking so I didn't have to go while we're waiting for her to come on, so everybody understands what I'm talking about. If anybody has any questions about what I said and I didn't make it clear, I can try to clarify more.
Yeah, that's a really great suggestion. And this has a really important effect on the future reserves, because the more of the new siding that we put up, the less it's going to cost us in future years,
Right.
so that we can, reduce the cost estimates,
Now, Brownie should be able to work
The
that
next
into his
cycle.
formula. For instance, let's just pick an arbitrary number and say that 10% of all the sheets were replaced. That means that next time we only have 90% as much siding to deal with. The following, assuming that it's a linear progression, the next time it would be 10% of 90%. So we'd only have 81% of the siding to replace, and so on. So it would be reduced at a slower and slower rate, obviously, because there'd be less and less of the T111 to replace. But I think we can probably make an assumption that it's somewhat linear, and at least it gives us something to work with. And it gives us, but we need to get some kind of estimate, and then we need to get with Browning early on and get him to work that into his calculations.
Yeah, I agree. And in addition, as long as we're diving into the reserve budget stuff, I noticed that unless somehow I completely misread it, it looks like it's still set up for 6-year cycles. So
Except we're not doing 6 years, we're doing, we're doing
right. We
8.
wanted, that was a mistake from the get-go, and we wanted him to re-estimate the reserve contributions based on either an 8 or a 10-year cycle. I can't remember which one.
It was, the agreement was 8.
Was it 8?
And that's the other thing to look at with regard to this. Once this cycle is done, the last time we extended the cycle, we extended it to 12. And I did the numbers, and it turned out that by doubling the time, we doubled the number of sheets. So we just doubled the cost. If that same relationship continues to exist, we don't essentially have much savings in shortening the cycle. If, on the other hand, it doesn't, then we've had some savings. Regardless, we'll save a little bit on painting, because even if you don't save anything on the siding, if you extend the cycle out for 2 years, it means your painting cycle is longer. So you've saved about a third on the painting cycle.
Yeah. And there was some issue on the painting cycle. I mean, we have to keep those two tied. But the paint they picked out is a longer lasting paint.
Yeah, the projected life expectancy of the paint is longer than the 6 years or 8 years. But the question is, if you don't tie the paint cycle to the siding cycle, then you've got to paint the siding you added, and it's not going to match up with the paint you already had on there, because that's going to be faded, and then you're what are you gonna do? Come back 2 years later? I mean, it's pretty difficult to break the painting and siding cycle.
True, but it should have some impact on those areas where we replace a lot of the siding, like complete elevations and so forth, but it'll be just tricky to, I mean, I don't know how to.
We
budget
almost
that.
never do a complete elevation, though.
Yeah,
We've done, some of those we did in this early part of this cycle, we did an awful lot of an elevation, but I've never seen an entire elevation replaced.
so basically we have to, even though we have a, longer lasting paint, we have to tie but for budgetary reasons, we have to tie the paint cycles to the siding cycles.
Yeah, but that may influence how long we go on the siding cycle.
Well, we have a lot of room on the sidings on both. So I think it wouldn't hurt at all to make it 8. It's not like the paint is gonna.
Yeah, well, we'll know what 8 implies after this is done.
Yeah.
Betsy's on, but Betsy's not on.
I'm here. I'm in the room. I have the camera turned towards Jackie and Marcus and John, who are
Hi.
just observing, except for Jackie, of course.
Okay. Let
hi.
me, to continue the discussion we're in, Betsy, has there been any progress with regard to getting the contractors to give us a count on the total number of sheets on the first 12 units or whatever, so that we can do a calculation on what the decline in the number of sheets is going to be?
No, I don't have that information, but John Baker and I are going to be walking the thing on Wednesday, so maybe we can get that information from them at that time.
Yeah, because somebody's going to have to actively count. We're going to have to decide how many units. I'd say maybe a dozen. Once a dozen are done,
Yeah.
then we can, we're going to know what proportion have been replaced.
Right, and we're not even a dozen units in, I don't think, or almost. But
we can extrapolate, I think, from a dozen, as long as there's a variety of different types of structures, different models, we can probably extrapolate out to the 590. Maybe we should go 15. I don't know.
Betsy?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We are getting detailed change orders every time one comes up, and he lists the number of sheets that were in the original proposal and then how many sheets are required in addition. So we do have that by change order. We'd have to tabulate that.
Right, but the number we don't have is how many sheets are there, period. What's the total? We calculate what percentage we're changing, and to build that into Browning's future estimates, we've got to know if we changed 100 sheets of 1,000, then we know proportionately how many we've changed, or 100, 100 sheets of 1,500 or whatever it happens to be. And we don't have a count on how many sheets total are on the structures.
Yes, we do, at least for the work that's been done.
We do have the number? Well,
Yes,
for the number,
every change order lists the number of sheets that were in the bid and how many sheets in addition are being required when there are required.
I understand that, John, but that's a percentage of a whole. What we don't have is the whole. In other words, all the sheets, if you take 15 units, you count every sheet on every unit, not every sheet replaced, every sheet. And on 15 units, I'm just going to make up a number. It's got 2,000 sheets. We replaced 200 of those sheets. We now have, assuming we can calculate, that Browning can calculate a linear progression, we know in the next cycle how many sheets are going to be exempt from deterioration, and the following cycle, and so on. So by pulling those sheets offline, but we can only do that if we know it's of a specific number of sheets of a total number of sheets.
Yeah,
Well, I am not following you at all.
I
Oh.
follow it.
Are you talking about the total number of sheets damaged and undamaged?
Yes, I'm talking about the
So you
total.
want to
numbers.
know how many sheets there are on all 170 units, whether they're damaged or not?
No, I want to know how many sheets. Well, yeah, I want to extrapolate out. I'm suggesting we pick the first 12 or 15 units that we repair. We
You know,
count all the sheets on those units, damaged or undamaged. And then, and as you state, we'll know how many sheets were replaced. That tells you then the next time, let's say it's 10%. That means that the next time we do siding, we're only working on 90% of the sheets. 10% of the sheets should be undamaged. So if it's a linear progression and each time we're replacing 1/10 of the sheets, next time that's only 81% of our total sheets. The following time, et cetera, it's going to decline. So Browning could work that into a formula that would tell him that this is a decreasing problem over time because the life expectancy of those new sheets is much greater.
yeah, that's a good point. And I was sitting here listening to you thinking, we can probably get that information right from the architectural drawings. I even have them in a digital format. So if you know how many feet wide a wall is, and you know that the siding sheets are 4 feet wide, you can count them out. And then also for the top story. So it's actually something that probably can be done in a math way at a desk.
That'd be great.
Mhm. Okay, well, maybe you and I can work on that, Will. So,
And then we got to get Browning to do something with it.
right, but I think that's really good. I think, like you said, I mean, if it's a depreciate, I mean, it's like a lessening cost each rotation. And then that's what allows you to push the paint out because you're not having to replace so much siding. So you really could do, 10, 15 years, maybe even.
Well, at the end of the day, we're having more damage than we thought we were going to encounter,
It doesn't shock me.
and it's
That's-
pretty ugly.
That's happened before, and when we extended the cycle out, it just exacerbated it.
It's hard to tell. Was the work done poorly before? Did we reach a point where it was going to be damaged? Did we miss it in the survey? I can't answer that, but we're encountering a lot more damage than we thought we were going to.
Yeah. Every time we've done it, once they start tearing sheets off, they find things that weren't visible from the outside visual inspection.
Yeah.
So diving kind of into the reserve budget. Anybody have any other comments about siding, painting? Structural?
No.
Nope.
Nope.
Roofing, anybody have any comments about roofing? I'm just kind of going through this.
Yeah, I know that Bob did not have time to go through the roofing numbers as we had hoped he would before this last reserve study. Just ran out of time, so we just need to start earlier. We can start in January, and once he's gotten done with his mad rush, have him check all of the numbers in the reserve study to see that we're not over saving. And he has those correct.
Well, I don't know if you were on when I was saying, I don't think he changed the timing of the cycles for the siding and painting. It's still at 6 years.
Okay. That's too
So,
bad. That's too
Yeah,
bad. Mhm. Yeah.
so it would be nice if he had time to spend, making all the changes that you recommended, the board recommended when they sent the letter, and
Mhm.
plus, check these other numbers.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, fencing,
I think,
are we still at 6-year cycles on the fencing too? 7-year cycles?
whatever is tied to the siding.
Okay, so well, that should probably be tied to the siding.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's how it's intended to be.
So, okay, I think that's it. It looks like. Oh, actually, it looks like fencing is at 8 years. This is under 2030.
Oh, interesting. Can you share your screen with us so we can see what you're seeing, Susan?
Oh, yeah, I'm just looking at what you sent out.
Okay.
Yes. Oh,
I
you're.
think
you're-
actually,
Oh, no, let me see if I can.
It's disabled.
yeah,
yeah.
so the Nepenthe Association is the host and they have to enable the screen sharing by participants.
Let me see if I can enable sharing.
Can you just transfer the hosting to you now?
That's weird. Echo chamber.
Just make Susan the co-host.
Yeah. Okay, you should be able to share now.
Okay.
Great.
Here are the fencing numbers. I'll leave the date up so you can see that next year's
Mhm.
the second year of the cycle, and then it starts again at, see, it's sort of like a little bit.
Right,
But I think it's under 2030.
yeah. Yeah, that looks right, but you're saying then that the wood
Yes, yes.
repairs and painting does not, okay,
No, that's up here at,
yeah, oh yeah, look at that. Okay,
yeah.
well,
Okay,
that should be easy enough to have them fixed and the board can adopt it again, I don't know, adopt the amendments or adopt the edits without having to like send out the study again.
yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing for them was just to get the 318 a month thing through, and then
Right,
everything else is just, for moving forward and kind of, well, I don't even know actually how he figured out what percent funded we were based on these. So anybody have any comments about the clubhouse? And Betsy, please chime in here if you have anything that you want to say about any of these issues.
no, I think that they're okay for now until we have another reserve study with site visit. Then we can really really dig in and get into the weeds on some of these components that are associated with the clubhouse, especially now that can you believe it? It's been 8 years, almost 9 years since the remodel. So I think we really can take a good look at the components here and make new assumptions about their useful life and remaining life.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's coming up in a couple of years, 2024.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be needing to spend money on a lot of these things. I'm not sure what 8,800 for the card room is intended for.
Yeah, and this
There
year,
shouldn't be that much. The carpet is the only area that's showing severe wear.
Right.
and yeah, so maybe that clubhouse lounge skylights and windows.
Oh, we'll probably just keep kicking that one down the.
Kick that one down the road. Okay.
It's definitely a component, but whether we need to replace them is a whole other thing.
Okay, nothing with the pool.
No.
Tennis courts, awning and benches this is the clubhouse.
Yeah, I see we've
couple
got
years
all of the exercise equipment, and so
That's
that's a
all.
little bit harder, but you know, because it's hard to know, does it really need replacing?
Ricardo wants his.
Oh, yeah, that's, here it is. That's right there.
Yeah. It is expensive equipment. You don't want it to get so dated that, you know, it looks like you're stuck in a time capsule, but I feel that everything works really well. We have a quarterly contract where they come out and check all the components and, you know, if there's a belt or some little thing that needs to be done, they do it. So we've taken really good care of that equipment. So it's hard to imagine it needing replacing. But that's something the board can.
Betsy, did you hear what Jackie said about the stair climber?
Yes, I know. There has been a homeowner request to get rid of the stair
Well, I
climber.
think he's right.
Yeah,
There's no elliptical on the budget 2024.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Yeah, I remember somebody making a comment about that at the board meeting too. It's
Yeah,
like,
it was
okay, let's,
Ricardo. Yeah, it was Ricardo. We have one elliptical. I think he's saying we should have 2 ellipticals. So maybe that's something that we think about doing, is maybe selling the stair climber if we can and purchasing another elliptical.
yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like you might save money on not purchasing other new stuff, so
Yeah.
Right.
great. There's your carpeting. That doesn't come up till 2024.
Okay.
I'm just kind of, I know everybody on this call is interested in landscaping. All the other stuff seems pretty, you know, we have issues with the cycles on some of the, you know, big ticket items, but all this is pretty much standard stuff.
Right. Now, at the top of this page that you're on right now, Susan, it talks about resurfacing the Dunbarton pool in 2024. Our pool service advised us that we do not have an auto filler on that pool, and we should probably think about that the next time we do this. So I'll make a note of that. As it is, he has to put a hose in there to fill it, which you can imagine takes some time, and you always run the risk of having overfilling issues. So an auto filler is at the rest of the pools, but for some reason not at Dunbarton.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, it would make sense to do that at some point when you're,
Doing the other work.
yeah.
Could you go back just a little bit? I was looking at when's the deck resurfacing projected?
It has 22 more years. I guess it was just.
Okay, okay. I thought it was soon. It went by too fast.
This is Dunbarton, though, if you're interested in.
Yeah.
But that was done at the same time.
All of them were done at
Oh,
the same
okay.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That has a while to go.
Okay.
Here's Elmhurst.
Yeah.
Tennis courts.
We've got the Elmhurst restrooms are scheduled for
Mhm.
23.
Yeah,
that-
well, yeah. I mean, we did a little touch up on them about 6 years ago, I guess. But the bulk of them still looks, you know, the same, but everything functions. We just had new toilets put in.
Yeah, that's $50,000. So that's,
I know, it's a lot of money. We probably aren't.
yeah, I'm not sure that's
Mhm.
one we might be able to stretch out.
And of course, the Elmhurst tennis court has issues with the redwood trees, so some decision has to be made about that court, either either get rid of the trees or get rid of half of the tennis courts. I mean, it's just one whole side of that tennis court is unplayable.
Yep.
Wow. Mhm.
Oh,
It gets very little play.
Right.
That's over near you, Will, that's
Yes, university kind of.
I've seen people on it over the last 20 years between walking to work and back and living there, probably 10 times, maybe a dozen.
Mhm.
Manny says he plays over there with his grandkids. I asked him that because I kind of
Ah.
wondered.
Yeah.
But
But I mean,
Yeah.
as long as it's a component, you know, that the association has to maintain, something should be done with it. It can't be allowed to just disintegrate either.
yeah, right.
So,
I don't know if we can even get permission to take out the redwoods.
I doubt it. I think they would say, get rid of half of the courts. Just soft cut it and remove it and let the trees
Yeah, we
take
could,
over.
we could have one court
Mhm,
and the court next to the street
mhm.
eliminated.
Right, just turn it into a planter bed or something.
If it's got that many cracks, it's kind of a hazard
That's my worry.
that we're well aware of.
Yeah.
The court's not in bad shape. It was resurfaced about 6 years ago,
Mhm.
maybe 5. It's in pretty good shape, except near the street. when
Yeah.
it's trashed.
Yeah. So that's the part that.
The tennis courts are, did I go too far? Elmhurst, it's due this coming year for reseal.
Oh, all the more reason to make a decision, I guess.
I mean,
I'll put it on a board agenda for discussion about what kind of options we want to look at.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to just put $13,000, $14,000 out without thinking it through.
Right.
So that to issue with defense damage, right?
okay. Commons tennis court.
Yeah, and they have, Browning has resurfaced. I don't know that it needs. I don't know. We'll have to look at it.
Yeah, it's in pretty good shape, but there's some cracks.
Okay.
So it needs some help for sure.
If it's going on the agenda, you probably should look at both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's see. All right, paving.
That's
What
the
did we
first-
do? Did we push that forward to this year? Did that happen?
These are actual costs, the ones that you see under 2022, those are the actual costs that the board contracted for. The only difference is that the actual seal coats, we just ran out of warm sunny days. So they'll come back in May and do it for the same contract price.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The repairs were done, but we just didn't get the sealing done. And then I hope that the board will consider, while they're here, seal coating the 2 private streets. It is called for this year, so.
Yeah. Yeah. And repairs.
And any repairs that would be on those 2 streets as well.
Yeah. Does the city the city take care of the repairs on commons, right? So they're responsible for the potholes at the roundabout?
Yes, and they did do some filling. Put in a request via 311 last spring and they did come out and fill them, but they look bad again already. I mean, they really need more than just a quick fill, I think.
Yeah. Just really quickly about the paving for the reseal, that come out of the 2023 budget then? If it's the,
No, it was already, it's already reflected as far as like, so you see
Oh,
where it
gotcha.
says, yeah,
Okay.
see like line 142, that is the sealing of the alleys. And so that is reflected in the 2022.
okay,
But the streets themselves were not part of that contract. So that is under 2023 and
Okay.
has yet to be negotiated if it's done at all. And I'm seeing something here, this asphalt overlay, this can be put out probably down here line 350. Probably push
Okay.
that puppy out 20 years. Yeah. I do not think there are parking lots and alleys in zone 7 are in bad shape. That they would require that.
So it's saying he's only giving a 15-year useful life and 2 years remaining. So we're saying
Yeah,
Push it
I don't know, but maybe we just earmark it and have them look at it again during the site visit, because you know, you need.
Oh, somebody's taking notes on this, I hope.
Yeah.
I am. I am taking notes. I know, I realize I wasn't taking notes for a little while, but I think I started back in and I've
Yeah.
got.
I mean, an overlay is a very, very big job. You would have to have, I mean, John knows better than I do. You'd have to have really bad roads to require this level of intervention.
Okay. But you would say another like 10 years likely? But
Just
will it-
on
will
my,
it-
just on my, based on my experience with asphalting, which has been what, 15, 18 years of working in this business.
You said push it out to, when you said push it out to 20, do you mean push it out another 20 years or push it out another 5 years to give a?
I would say, I mean, I don't want to be an expert. I'm not an expert, but I think that you could say another 15 years. You could say 15 years from now, you may need to do that work.
Okay.
Just based on the little I know from managing properties and contracting for asphalt work.
Well, what about, you've got $1.3 million on
Yeah,
the other 3 zones. Are
Yeah.
they gonna be due?
well, see, I think the same thing pertains. Now, we could ask Dennis Bro from Bro Asphalt, when he comes out in the spring, give his opinion on when he thinks an overlay might be needed, you know, how far ahead, and that would be what Bob could build.
Is he really talking about an overlay?
Yeah.
And that's,
That's a huge job.
not only is it a huge job, but you've got all kinds of grade issues, matching grades with drain pipes and everything else. That's massive.
No, and it's so hard to imagine
Yeah.
us needing that.
So massive, probably not needed.
And
Well-
that's a total of $1.5 million. So if
Yeah.
you're talking about pushing that out even 5 or 10 years, that's a.
That'll make a big
significant change.
impact on the budget.
Easily.
Yeah,
Yeah, because that means we're taking out, well, you can't see it on this page, but another 15 years, we'd probably take out an entire cycle. So we'd take out 1.3 million from the
right,
reserve budget. That'd be good.
right. So I'm reading the backup on page 126 about overlays. This was to install a mill and inlay in 2011 by J.B. Boston. Previous studies had this at a 25-year life. So I mean, they did this work in 2011. The actual cost for zones 2 through 6 was a total of $589,000 in 2011. So obviously prices have gone up, but again, they weren't seal coating, they weren't doing much with road care in the intervening years. So between 1975 and 2011, they didn't do
Have
much.
we ever done any overlays?
Yes,
A
2011.
real overlay? Like inches of overlay?
Yeah, and they worked with, in fact, they had a consultant, and I can't remember his name now, but JD Bostic did the work.
I'd like to see what that was, because I have a hard time imagining they did a full overlay.
I don't know.
So they estimated it at 25, but Browning just put it in at 15.
That needs to move out.
Well, in 2011, he put it in at 25, and now we're coming up on that 25. Oh, I see what you're saying.
No,
Right.
no, he put it in
Yeah.
at 15,
Yeah,
yeah.
for useful.
Yeah. At 2011, 25 would be 36,
Yeah,
2036.
Okay, here's another note. This is zone 7. And it says, according to JB Bostic in 2012, this area may need a mill and inlay as soon as 5 to 7 years from 2012. This is a major change from the previous studies that projected this zone with a life of 15 years. And in 2022, his note here says the remaining life should be clarified with the asphalt contractor. So he's saying the same thing I am, that we should talk to Bro, see what they say about it, and adjust this accordingly.
okay. No. All right. We've got some concrete work coming up. Is that gonna
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah, it's gonna happen this year. Hopefully not to that tune, but there are some areas of major lifting that are going to need remove and replace. So I've started that list now. Once we pick up zone walks in earnest, I'll be watching and making my notes. And hope to have something in front of the board in the spring proposals.
Okay. All right, now landscaping. Okay, so we've got the big ticket, the irrigation valves, that's gonna be well, it's only in the budget probably once, right? Because it's just a 40-year budget.
Right, it is a an upgrade or irrigation upgrade, splitting out the valves, making them more appropriate. So if you have an area that requires spray and drip, then you have one valve for the spray, so you can run the times the way they should be, and one for drip. And we'll be starting behind the phased siding repair. And then there's a corresponding figure, a couple lines down, I think, that is intended to be for, yes, for any landscape changes that would be beneficial. So for example, if you have an area of turf, rather than changing out to spray heads when the rest of the valve is a drip, you know, this would be the opportunity to then change that turf to maybe a shrub bed, so it can all be turf. So just to have the ability to take care of both needs. at the
This
same
is
time.
the water-wise renovation.
Right,
It's split up, you split it up by zones for.
basically by the painting phases.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, it's following the painting phases. So that the destruction of the siding work is not conflicting with this work. We'll follow behind them. And the budget numbers on top, the irrigation part of it, starting with the line 200, those are the budget numbers provided by Nick Schubert at Carson. And then these numbers down here for the landscaping portion were kind of the result of a board meeting where we were talking about, you know, what did we want to send to Bob Browning? And we wanted to have some flexibility to make changes to the landscape that would serve the irrigation and vice versa.
Okay. I know there's, you know, a lot of discussion about some of these line items being included in the reserve budget versus the operations budget. And mostly I'm looking at the tree maintenance, because everything, a lot of this stuff is, you know, just really difficult to predict when,
Mhm.
you know, how much money are we going to need, and it's
Mhm.
really quite a bit. But quite, I mean, we can, I'm just mentioning that because I know some people want to discuss it, and I just kind of like to open it to the committee members to discuss. You know, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what the committee members think.
I think it's where it belongs. You know, these are softer numbers than siding and roofing and asphalt probably. Because you got living things that die. But you know, these are major, this is major maintenance to one of our largest investments. I don't see and it has the capacity, even more so than things like siding and roofing, to have high years and low years because of weather changes and so on. So it seems to me that it's in the right place. I mean, one way or another, the only area where there's a lot of choice is in the restoration. They're going in and removing turf or removing shrubs and replacing them. And that's, you know, that could be done either place, but it seems to me that, again, it's a long-term project. And some of these, you know, shrub areas have lasted 50 years or more. So they're certainly a long-term investment.
Mhm.
So traditionally, we haven't put like the remediation dollars in the operations budget. And in fact, you know, we have a lot of things going on, especially with our older shrubs. And I don't mean to get into the nitty gritty of landscaping. I'm really, you know, wanting to just think about the budget, you know, reserve budget versus operations budget. But where do those things come out, Betsy? Like if it's a tree, if it's remediation for a tree removal, that's here. Right.
Right.
And that's the 376.
Right.
Have a little bit allocated, and you know, in years where we've got big problems with trees, those numbers will go up, and we really kind of need to have the flexibility to keep those, as you know, as Will's saying, maybe in the reserve budget. What about for just regular kind of remediation when things go, when shrubs die, and or we decide we need to, you know, as a community, we talked about pulling out certain kinds of shrubs or something. Where is that in the budget? Is that
Right now, there's not a lot of budget for remediation. So like, for example,
that's just plant replacement? Is
yeah,
that
plant
530?
replacement right now, and it's a pretty small amount, may not be sufficient. And this is just always where it comes down to. I mean, if you put it in operating and you put even this tiny amount, if you put that in operating, that is going to be felt pretty immediately in the assessment dollars. And if you think about, you know, what the work that the grounds committee does and the zone walks, I mean, they see firsthand some of these situations that need remediation, and I don't know that there's in this particular year an allocation for that kind of work. So that's something that I think the board will have to kind of struggle with and give instruction to the grounds committee on what they're wanting to see from the grounds committee by way of proposals. They want the grounds committee to only be focused, you know, on this bigger project. And, you know, another one is down, if you scroll down a little further, I think there's a line item for draining.
Yeah.
Yeah, landscape drains. I mean, we've been seeing a lot of this out in the field and have received a number of service requests from homeowners because the landscaping, whether it's shrubs or trees, is pushed up the ground and then the water is funneling back towards their units and ponding against the units, which obviously nobody wants that. So that is something that, you know, we're going to have some expense for.
Well, it feels like, and you know, please, Tara will chime in.
The
Yeah,
history of
done.
this becoming a part of the reserve study started when we had, you know, an external contractor come in and draw up a plan for restoring the grounds. What was that, 15 years ago or whatever it was?
Mhm.
And when the board got the proposed cost, which were something like $3.5 million,
No, it was
they had a heart attack.
Mhm.
And what they did is they put money in the reserve for, I think it was 3, maybe it was 5 years, and we were going to clean up the grounds and everything was going to be done. Well, when Ivan was president, he had come from grounds committee, and it was pretty apparent that there was going to be no such thing as we're going to fix the grounds and then we can walk away from them, that this was going to be an ongoing, never-ending problem that you know, areas were going to have to be restored periodically. And what happened was took those 3 big allocations and spread them out for a number of years into reserves, which reduced the expenditure for any given year, but it made it a permanent part of the reserve study. And that's kind of how this whole thing came about. Before that, nobody frankly ever grappled with this at all.
No.
You know, the grounds were getting
We'll get to it.
older, the shrubs were getting older, and nobody really had a plan for what to do about it.
And I mean, quite frankly, as we begin talking about how to get a handle on landscape expenses, like these allocations are small. I mean, I think the grounds committee could bust through these allocations in, you know, a month.
Mhm.
But, you know, I mean, as you say, it's a board decision. If the board says, okay, but we're going to just stick to this as best we can, you know, and just find some way to decide which things are emergencies and just cannot be, you know, deferred,
Right.
which things can be kind of kicked down the road a little bit.
Right.
I mean, it's happened before. We've gone through this before, and you know.
Yeah, and it's very possible that when the board meets on the 7th, you know, they're thinking about the siding, and that's going to have to be the priority, and ground landscape is going to have to be the one thing that is has some flexibility and has to be deferred. And so not to say money won't be spent, but it may not be spent on these allocations and might be spent on others.
Are you out already? No, I bought you some more.
Ashley, you're not muted.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think there's what is it? TBD.
Yeah.
TBD. A lot of TBD.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Does anybody have anything else they want to mention about landscaping, or shall we move forward?
No, I think we should look at, it's actually, sorry, page 180. I think it's 180.
This, Ashley, I think you're a little bit out of order. I'm just asking the committee members for input right now. But I do want to get down towards the end. So I don't know if it's 180 or not, but I just also wanted to kind of, before we end, get down to the what is it, a summary of like of the expenditures. I think it would be really helpful to look at that. Anything here that's catching anyone's eye? This to me looks, we're almost at the end.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
I wanted to go down here and let's see. As long as I'm going down here, I might as well stop at 180 per Ashley's suggestion. Because this looks like it has a lot of the landscape stuff, and this is a schedule of, what is this? What are we looking at? This looks like just a summary of the backup information. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the, each line item giving a balance for each line item.
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of like you said, a summary showing the useful life, the remaining life, the fully funded balance, and the contribution from your dues that goes towards that particular line item. So, and that's an annual number. So that far right-hand column, when it talks about tree pruning and forest health, item 364, and it says, you know, 90 or $70,326 of your 2023 contribution is going towards that. So then if you wanted to know, okay, well, how much is that per month, you know, divide it by 12 and then divide it by 590 homeowners. So
Well,
I think
this, I mean, maybe you can clarify this for me, because this, when it says 2023 line item contribution based on cash flow method, isn't that how much is budgeted that year for this line item?
budgeted as a contribution to the reserves.
Budgeted
Yeah,
as
but not, wouldn't think it'd be for that year. It's for that, it's for that line item.
Right.
So it's going into
Because
the
again, it's
committee.
not a yearly budget.
No, exactly. So like, oh, can you just go down a little bit more? No, the other way. Okay. Okay.
Ah,
So,
this way?
okay, so you have a subtotal here for grounds of $592,688. I think we did this exercise in Grounds Committee. But that's how much of the contribution that you make every month to reserves is going into the grounds. So,
Well, that's the year's total, not every
right,
month.
that's the year's total, right? you
So
have to
that's
divide it by
based
month.
on what, just kind of the proportion of dollars
Yes.
that's allocated to ground. So it doesn't have, I mean, because our contribution goes into the entire reserve.
Correct.
Then it's
Correct. Right, it's not like that goes into a separate reserve or anything like that, but it's just the proportion of your total or your total reserve contribution that is going towards grounds.
yeah, it's a little bit of a weird number for me.
It is, and he even says, you know, if you were to go to the Browning website, he provides a kind of a walkthrough of the study. He says this is mostly interesting for CPAs who are preparing audits, or they're doing their annual review, and they want to be able to provide some tabular data about
what it does tell you is what proportion of the reserves are, out of the total reserves are contributed to a particular function.
Right, that's
So
right.
it gives you a perspective.
So in fact, the thing that I was the thing I was going for was this page 2 here, which is sort of a similar thing.
Yes, it is.
And
It's-
I mean,
it's
this gets at the
distorting.
per unit per month thing. So
Right, you can see the
that-
318 at the bottom.
Yeah. And this shows 377, 174 is the total.
Oh, right, because
landscaping.
because the one on the other page included concrete, I believe, and maybe even asphalt. So this is the one that's just landscaping,
Yeah,
18,000.
And
18,000.
people are having a problem. They're trying to look at it as a yearly budget that, it's going to cost this much this year and we contribute this much this year, but it's not a yearly budget. It's a rolling fund. So the two don't essentially match.
No,
they don't. I mean, because you can see how much we've allocated for landscaping for this 18,000 line item is more like 1.3 million, really.
Right.
So it doesn't exactly match up to this 377,174, but for purposes of thinking about our contribution, that's the proportion of the contribution that is going
Right.
because our contribution doesn't pay for all the reserve costs.
Right.
Well, not on a year by year basis. The
Right.
contribution does, it's projected to cover the reserve costs.
Overall, but we keep
Overall,
contributing.
but it's not a year by year budget. So if you look at it as an annual budget, it's very confusing.
Right. I think your description of the rolling fund is a lot more correct because some things you do spend, some things you don't spend, but the carryover continues
Right.
into the next year.
I think it's this whole, this way of presenting our contribution and the proportion allocated for these different line items has caused a lot of confusion on homeowners and, it's like the source of a lot of these emails going out and, hopefully the people on this call all understand what we're talking about right now. And it's not going to be a source of confusion anymore.
Yeah, this number, this portion of your reserve contribution plus the portion that does come out of operating for the landscape maintenance, that's the total expenditure a homeowner is going to face in 2023.
In a given year. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, anything else? What else
Let's see.
is there anything that you want to say about the operations, the financials from last month?
No, I don't think so. I didn't see anything crazy. I'm just happy that we've, like I've said in the past, gotten the reserve contributions all caught up from previous years in the flood insurance payment. So we're in a really good position as we close out the year with that.
And are we going to be okay with the flood insurance stuff?
Yeah. We did have to transfer funds. As you know, we have two operating accounts. We have the main one that most checks are written out of, but then there's also an overflow account. And so we did transfer some money from that one into the regular one just to cover the check, but we had it this year. So we did not have to defer the reserve contribution this month.
Oh, great.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah.
Puts us on a good footing.
For next month, the fourth Monday is the 26th of December. Do we need to, is there anything that needs to be done? Do you want to meet? we will, the only thing that I can think of that will happen will be this meeting that I was telling you about with the board and the grounds chair. But I could probably, send some notes out by email. We don't have to necessarily have a meeting to discuss that.
Yeah, and just so you know too, I would not be here for that meeting because the first service holidays is the Friday and then the Monday. So it's a 4-day weekend.
Oh, great. That's great. Let's see. So team.
So we either cancel it or change it.
You want to cancel it or change it?
We could probably cancel it, but
I'm fine with canceling it.
I'll do it either way.
I'm fine with canceling.
Okay. All right. Anything else, team? Okay, then I say we adjourn and everybody have a really great Christmas,
Whoa.
winter holidays. I know, and
Another homeowner?
pardon?
Do we have a homeowner comments at the end too? I'd like to make a request. Don
Sure.
Landsettle here.
Okay,
Per John's instruction, I'm requesting that copies of the Reserve Tracker Report. Where do I find copies of the Reserve Tracker Report, current and historic, and how do I get copies going into the future?
oh, great question. I can tell you one thing that we've just seen, I think it's just been fixed. We got the Reserve Tracker for the first time for this last month.
Mhm.
Betsy, how do you handle those requests?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, it has not been something that the board has shared, but I guess, I can tell you that it would always be part of the board packet. It will be in the board packets on the website.
It
But
has not been.
Right, because it was just fixed. It had some formula errors.
It's
Well,
been
yeah.
months, Don. Yeah,
I'll agree with that.
yeah.
So,
And historically, Betsy, if you recall, and Christina may recall this too, when I was grounds chairman, we had copies of the tracker reports that was being distributed to the grounds committee, everyone on the grounds committee. So did the availability of that tracker report change? That it was held tightly?
I have no problem providing it. I am just trying to think of where's the right place to put it.
Okay,
But yeah, I'd be happy to send it to you if you don't have it.
Well, I hate to cause you extra work if it's possible to get it online, or, if your committee chair asks for a copy of it, I'm sure she'll get that too.
I'd be happy to go online and get it.
Great. We can make sure that, try and make it as easy as possible with links and so forth to, make sure you have it easy and available.
Yeah, I gotta think, we can put it in the newsletter. That would be easy. Everybody could see it once a month in the newsletter.
Yeah, great idea.
All right, let's do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
Of course.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for your time and your interest and participation. Really appreciate it. And now I can wish you everybody to have a good holiday.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.